Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Febriani Balaati, NIM 441420006 from the class B, Pendidikan Kimia. Okay, this time I will explain about the modification of sulfur. Then the purpose that Praktikum to study several modification of sulfur and to study characteristic of hydrogen sulfate and H2SO4. Literature review. Sulfur or sulfur is a crystalline that is highly reactive with all elements, except gold, platinum, iridium, tellurium, and the noble gases. However, sometimes it exists in the form of a neat sleeves long. Sulfur usually occurs as sulfide and sulfate minerals. Sulfur is a chemical element with the atomic number group 15 of 5A. Chemical element of the periodic table. Sulfur is an essential element for life and is found into amino acids. Sulfur can be found as impure or as sulfide and sulfate minerals. In sulfide, sense as hydrogen sulfide or H2S. Next, the tools and materials used. Tools: evaporating cup, test tube, stirring rod, measuring cup, volumetric flask, tube clamp, watch glass, stands and clamps, test tube rack, draw pipette, beaker glass, Bunsen burner, analytical balance, foamy hood, and hot plate. And the materials, specific materials, CH3COH, H2S4, K2CrO4, sulfur, and general materials, tap water, aqueous, copper chip, tissue, washing soap, sucrose, and ethanol. Experimental work scheme. Modification of sulfur. In the sulfur modification, there were two treatments. The first and evaporation. Blended 0,5 gram of sulfur in evaporation cup by heating the sulfur until it melts and freezes. Observed crystal stripes. The product yellow crystal. And the second, in the test tube, heated 0,5 gram of sulfur powder in the test tube while shaking the tube. Observed the sulfur color change. The product brownish yellow. Characteristic of sulfur acid. Heated a phase of copper in a test tube containing 1 ml H2S4. Observed the activity in the test tube. Rated the reaction equation. The product bubble apart in the tube. Next, placed the filter paper moistened with K2Cr2O4 solution in the mouth of test tube. Observed the color change in the filter paper. Rated the reaction equation. The product Filter paper that was originally yellow. Format rich brown. Next, put sucrose into the test containing 1 ml H2SO4. Observe it and take a note the activity and the test tube. The product, when heated, it turns into black solid. Next, we go to observation result. The first, modification of sulfur. Treatment. First, blend 0,5 gram of sulfur in evaporating cup. By heating the sulfur until it melts and let it freeze. Observation. When the sulfur melts, the sulfur is red. After freezing, sulfur forms crystal. 2. Heated 0,5 grams of sulfur powder in the tube. Observation. Change color from yellow to brownish. The second, characteristic of sulfur acid. First, heated a piece of copper in a test tube containing 1 ml H2SO4. Observation. Bubbles appear in the tube. 2. Place the filter paper moistened with K2CrO4 solution in the mouth of the test tube. Observation. Filter paper that was originally yellow turned white. 3. Put sucrose into the tube and a few drops of concentrated H2SO4. Observation. When heated, it turns into a black solid. 4. Put 2 ml of acetic acid, the tube, 2 ml of ethanol, and 2 ml of concentrated H2SO4. Heat the test using a Bunsen burner. Observation. The heated solution causes bubbles to form and smells like an inflatable balloon. Discussion. Modification of sulfur. In the sulfur modification experiment, there were 2 treatments, namely heating the sulfur in an evaporation dish and in a test tube. When sulfur is heated in an evaporation cup using a hot plate, the color changes from yellow to red and the sulfur melts. After being allowed to stand for a few minutes, the sulfur solidifies and crystal lines form. The reactions that occur are S tambah O2 menghasilkan SO2. Then heated the sulfur in a test tube. When sulfur is heated in the test tube using a hot plate, after 5 minutes, the sulfur melts and the color changes from yellow to deep red. This is because there is an effect of heating speed, where if the temperature decreases. The color of the sulfur will be darker. Sulfuric acid characteristic. In the sulfuric acid characteristic experiment, the first thing to do is heat a piece of copper in a test tube containing 1 ml H2SO4. When heating takes place, bubbles are formed. Then after the heating process is stopped, the color changes from clear to brownish yellow. The reaction that occurs in the experiment is as follows. Tembaga ditambah 2H2SO4 menghasilkan tembaga sulfat tambah hidrogen peroksida ditambah dengan belerang oksida. Next is to put filter paper moistened with K2CrO4 solution at the mouth of the test tube in the first experiment. Then heat it. When heated slowly, the yellow color on the filter paper disappears or turns white. The reaction that occurs in this experiment is as follows. K2CrO4 ditambah CuSO4 menghasilkan CuCrO4 ditambah K2SO4. And the next step is to put sucrose into a test tube and 10 drops concentrated H2SO4, then heated using Bunsen heating. When heated, the color changes to black. And the last step is to put 2 ml of acetic acid into the tube. Then add 2 ml of ethanol and 2 ml of concentrated H2SO4. Heat the test tube using a Bunsen burner. During the heating process, the heated solution causes bubbles to form and smells like an inflatable balloon. The reaction that occurs in this experiment is follows. CH3COH added, C2H5OH added, H2SO4 they produce CH3COH, C2H2 added H2O. Conclusion. Based on the experiment that have been carried out, it can be concluded that the modification of sulfur can be seen from changes in the structure of the sulfur itself, which is marked by a change in color and the formation of crystal lines. As for the experimental characteristic of sulfuric acid, it can be concluded that sulfuric acid has the property of being an oxidizing agent, which is called an oxidizing agent. That's my explanation regarding sulfur modification. Thank you.